On this week's episode, was Princess Leia going to be the last Jedi? Are there any hits at the box office this weekend? And could there be a new number one TV network? All this and more as we reach our next stop, the PCC Multiverse. And could there be a new number one TV network? That'll be better. And we're back with another episode of the PCC Multiverse. This is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our shows. But it wouldn't be a PCC Multiverse without my good friend. He's again our destroyer of Cheetos for Pop Culture Cosmos. You got to check out everything that he's doing today at popculturecosmos.com, popculturecosmos.wordpress.com, and everything that he's doing today with his awesome book, Congratulations, You Suck. It is my good friend. It is Josh Peterson. What's up, man?
Hey. Speaking of Cheetos, I'm learning the art of having to label things when you buy them from the grocery store.
What do you mean?
Because when you buy Cheetos and people eat them, but they're for you, so you have to keep buying more Cheetos. Thus, you have to go buy a label maker so people know that they're your Cheetos. Like, I can't destroy Cheetos if I don't have any, is the point I'm trying to make.
Well, I'm in a house of two daughters who have high metabolisms and just love to crunch and chew on, pretty much anything that's in the fridge. So even if it's marked for me, you know what? They always come to you and say, Dad, can I? Go ahead, honey. You can have it.
Can't resist. Yep.
Can't resist the kids asking. What can I say? But it is going to be a great episode we've got for you today. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about when it concerns Star Wars, also as well television, because we're going to be talking about Princess Leia and The Last Jedi, or As the Last Jedi, I should say. We'll be talking about that possibility that was once out there for the Star Wars universe coming up here in a few minutes. Plus, we're also going to be talking about Jessica Boggs from the TVRatingsGuide.com and her show, Jessica's Show. She's going to be stopping by to talk about. She's going to be stopping by with her November TV update, talking about all the broadcast networks, talking a little bit of cable, talking a little bit of streaming. Plus, also as well, we contemplate the fact that the numbers are trending in a different way than possibly the first time in many, many years. In fact, it may even be a first in that there's a certain network that could be a brand new number one broadcast network on television. The numbers are trending that way, and we'll talk more about that coming up here later on in the program. Plus, also as well, Josh and I are going to be talking about some good stuff when it concerns Disco, a video game that could be the sleeper hit of the year. You may not know about it, but I really think if you're a PC gamer out there, you really should listen to what we have to say later on in the program as well. Plus, what is going on with, actually, that's it. Yeah, we're going to be talking about this. We're going to be talking about a video game that you PC gamers need to know about later on in the show as well. But my friend, there is a crowded, jam-packed weekend of movies coming at the box office. I mean, we've talked about before about movies and the streaming market and how movies are less and less movies seem to be coming out. But then we have weekends like this where there's not one, there's not two, but there's three movies that are coming out, all with big aspirations this weekend at the box office. And in the middle of everything going on with Terminator Dark Fate and its actual disappointing performance, the Joker still riding high and could possibly become the first R-rated $1 billion movie of all time. Plus also disappointments that are out there from Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, Zombieland 2 Double Tap, that did okay. The Addams Family did okay. Harriet, the biographical movie based on the life of Harriet Tubman, that's doing pretty good at the box office, above expectations. So there's all these movies that are out already, but thrown into the fray are 3 new movies that are trying to vie for number 1 at the box office. I want to hear your thoughts first on Midway. I don't know if you remember the old 1970s movie that was based off the actual battle at Midway, but they had this old war movie back, like I said, in the early 70s and whatnot. It was a big blockbuster film at that point in time. They're trying to, Roland Emmerich, once again, after the disappointing returns from Independence Day Resurgence, looking to see if he can find the same kind of magic with another big catastrophic type film where I believe it recreates the somewhat of Pearl Harbor and then also the Battle at Midway. So I want to hear your thoughts on this star-studded cast. All seem to be preparing, coming out to going ahead and being a part of this movie, a remake of Midway.
I'm actually kind of interested in this one because you don't really get a lot of war films anymore. I know Midway and there's 1911. Is that the one coming out, the World War I film? So I'm excited about both of those. Like Midway kind of has like this Pearl Harbor vibe to it, and I know it's kind of in the same vein as that film, but like you don't get a lot of historical flicks anymore. Like you just don't. Like back when like Saving Private Ryan came out, you'd always have a movie every year, like Braveheart, Gladiator, whatever it might be. You don't get a lot of movies like that. So anytime a historical movie comes out, I'm always really excited to watch it. The fact that it's done by Roland Emmerich, though, makes me question: is it going to have a story, or is it going to be just a lot of things getting destroyed? So that's my only, the only thing holding me back from maybe going to actually see this in the movie theaters. But other than that, like I'm interested. I do want to see it. Do you have feelings for or against it?
I mean, I saw the original 1970s movie, and at that point in time, it was a disaster film. Obviously, tried to recreate the events in a Hollywoodish fashion of what somewhat. There are some tropes in that particular film that just be the sign of the times at that point in time that you probably wouldn't recreate at this point in our movie and in our culture. But I don't know, man. I mean, Roland Emmerich, if you're going to see it, it's probably best to see it in the form of a theater because it's probably big, wide lensed, a lot of explosions, CGI. It probably doesn't do itself justice if you're seeing it on a smaller screen. So I'd say if you are going to see it, probably see it at the theaters, because if you see it on a smaller screen format, it probably just won't jive as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of Roland Emmerich stuff isn't meant to be seen, like you said, it's not meant to be seen on the smaller screen, and especially like with the explosion. Because is he one of the ones that uses like an actual film camera still, or does he does the IMAX lenses, right?
I believe so, yeah, because it looks like from the trailer that I see, it's pretty wide lens. It's pretty, the land. It seems like it's very wide in the way it wants to go ahead and present its imaging. The cinematography itself poses itself to a lot of wide shots and a lot of distance shots and things of that nature, even at CGI and all that, because of the fact that I think you want to get a handle on this type of scope of battle that you're seeing, as far as not only from the air but the sea as well.
Yeah, it feels like a very large scale film. I mean, like I said, like I would like to go see it in the movie theaters. I don't know if I will get to, but it does have my interest. It is something that I would like to watch, especially in this time where we don't get, like I said, we don't get a lot of films like this anymore. So between this one and, 1911, there are two films that I am very much
1917.
1917. There are two films that I am very much interested in.
I think I'm more interested in 1917 because of the fact that World War I doesn't get as much coverage, or hasn't, over the course of our lifetimes, both yours and mine, in the history books. It really, I don't want to say it gets kind of forgotten about, but it's not presented very well, or hasn't been presented very much, and even thought of or even remembered as much as World War II, which has been done so much in remembering what went on in that cataclysmic war and that cataclysmic battle worldwide. I would like to see what was going on in World War I a little bit more. So 1917 appeals to me a little bit more, even though it's from a British perspective. I'm not able to relate as much as if that makes sense, because obviously that's our listeners in the UK can relate to that more than they would Midway, because that effectively deals more with American forces and things of that nature. So I was still am more intrigued by seeing 1917 than Midway. I don't know if I will catch Midway. I'm kind of on the fence about it. I mean, if I do feel like I'm in a mood and I want to see something like that, maybe I'll go check it out. It's getting not that great of reviews, simply because of the fact it looks like a disaster movie type format, the way it's structured. I mean, that's pretty much Irwin Allen would probably, if he was still alive today, would probably be very envious of the type of scope that you could go ahead and recreate with CGI and all that. But I will say this, that it is, of the three new movies, the least expected to perform well at the box office. In fact, right now it's being targeted right between $10 to $15 million, which would be a big disappointment. As you and I both know, that movie looks like it's going to be that movie was very expensive to make. So it looks like another heavy loss for the movie studio. And I'm not even sure why you would greenlight that anyways over some other stuff that maybe would be done on a smaller scale, which would be not only more cost effective, but might on the slight chance get a larger audience, as well. So, I mean, that's just my thoughts on it, but there are two more movies coming out this weekend that we need to talk about. And one is, we talked about Midway being a remake of the 1970s movie, and obviously based on the World War II battle that took place. Also this weekend is a movie, somewhat to an extent, based off of a song from the late George Michael, and that is Last Christmas, with a whole bunch of George Michael songs, and there's even a new George Michael song that has been released posthumously this week. So it's very interesting if you're a George Michael fan. I know Emilia Clarke has been getting raised for her role, but the movie as a whole has been deemed okay. It's got that love formula that I think a lot of people like to go ahead and see. It's a date movie type feel. Got a little bit of that holiday feel as well. So I want to hear your thoughts on Last Christmas. Do you think this is going to be a good tribute to the late George Michael? Do you think this is a proper tribute to his work? And do you think this is something that a lot of people will go see at the box office?
I've heard, I was just reading about this. I heard that there's some kind of twist at the end that everyone keeps spoiling, and Emilia Clarke was kind of like lashing out on social media about it. I think it looks like a fun Christmas movie.
She is not the person you want to get mad, because she's got some dragons that can breathe fire on you.
Oh, tell me about it. She's got a whole fan base too. I'm sure on Twitter would gladly rise to her to help her out if she needed it. No, I mean it looks like one of those movies that it looks fun. It's just a fun Christmas movie, and that's in the holidays are so filled with Hallmark movies and cheesy. Cheesy kid movies for Christmas. It's nice to see something that's maybe centered more towards adults, but not like, in the raunchy aspect of it, but just like something that's going to be fun to watch. Something you take the family to go watch, check it out. It looks like a genuinely fun movie.
It looks more to me like a date movie.
Yeah. But I mean, it's just like, it's a holiday movie, and like, we don't get a lot of those that are considered good anymore. Like we had, what was the last one that came out that people really enjoyed was, if I remember correctly, it was Christmas with the Cranks, or it was Elf or something like that. Like, this movie looks like it might actually be memorable.
Even if it's not memorable, even if it's okay, I think it fills a niche that hasn't been filled in a long time. And I just mentioned it, in that it's a date movie. Because, name me the last time you remember a good, or I guess marketable date movie in quite some time.
Yeah, it does. I mean, and it has a big star in there, Emilia Clarke. I don't know much about the other actor. I know he's from Crazy Rich Asians.
That's correct. You're going to get to know him because he's going to be doing a lot of starring roles here in the near future.
Yeah, I mean, he looks like he can hold a role pretty well. And I'm just reading like headlines about the film. People seem to be enjoying it, so I'm assuming that it's going to be good. But again, do you think that my question to you right here is do you think that Christmas movies are things that are viable investments these days?
Well, all depends. I have not seen the production budget for it, but if it's right around 40 to 50 million or under, I can say it's going to turn in. I can say it's going to get a good return on its investment. I can tell you two reasons why. It's a date movie, once again, in an era where there's really not been any date movies in quite some time. And it's also a early release Christmas movie, which will still be there in theaters. So whether you like it or not, it's going to be sucking up some theaters. It's going to be sucking up some theaters in the movie theaters for quite some time, at least through the end of the year. So you're going to have it. It's as opposed to, let's say, Terminator Dark Fate. Terminator Dark Fate came out last week. It's already not doing very well. It's already getting cut. It's already being removed from theaters. By the time the end of the year happens, it's already going to hit the budget screens. The same thing with Dr. Sleep. Dr. Sleep, it may outperform. It may outperform this movie. It may outperform Last Christmas this week, but over the course of time, this could be a situation where you have the same thing that went on with Hugh Jackman's film. Remember Hugh Jackman's films with the musical that he did?
Was that Les Mis? Is that what you're talking about?
No, not Les Mis. No, not Les Mis. Hold on. Gosh. The Something Man. Well, The Greatest Showman. Yes. Okay. Remember with The Greatest Showman, it had a decent opening, but it wasn't number one. But it kept on going. It kept on going, and actually even rising a percentage, which is a rarity at the box office, and it stayed in, week out. We could see that same thing happening with Last Christmas, because it is a film based in this time of the year, and it could be something that could have legs for the next 6, 7, 8 weeks because of the fact that it is a traditional holiday type film, has a mixture of something that maybe adults want to see, especially if they're on a date night. So, and also the fact that for millennials and even older individuals such as myself that remember the work of George Michael, maybe those individuals want to see it for just that purpose alone. So I think that movie, even if it doesn't hit number one, which is not expected to this week domestically, will still have long legs over the course of time. And by the end of the year, you could see it turning a decent little profit at that.
Okay, so that being said, like the whole George Michael thing, do you think that it's going to be like something that could be considered pop culture? Something in that realm?
Well, a little bit, but again, it's based loosely off his work, and his music is being featured in the film. So, be that as it may, it does have his influence. Sirius XM is doing a limited time George Michael channel with the stars of the movie, commenting on his work, of course, to promote the movie that's currently coming out to theaters this weekend. So it's all tying in with each other. To me, it seems like it's going to be, because the fact that it's got all these, check off the box type deals. I think it's going to be a movie that has legs. I don't think it's going to be a super hit by any stretch of the imagination, but I do think it's going to be a little profit maker when all is said and done. And last but not least, you got the movie that a lot of people are expecting to be number one at the box office, and that is a spiritual successor to The Shining, and that is Dr. Sleep with Ian McGregor. No, sorry, it's not Obi-Wan Kenobi this time, but it is Ian McGregor. So I want to ask you this: Dr. Sleep, it's getting okay reviews as well, but I want to hear your thoughts. This is another Stephen King adaptation. Is this something that you're interested in because you are a Stephen King fan? I want to know if you're excited about seeing a movie that could possibly be a spiritual successor, especially with Ian McGregor playing Danny, who was the son in the film The Shining, and also they returned to the location and the hotel in The Shining at various points of time in the film. So I want to hear your thoughts on Dr. Sleep and its possibilities going forward, as maybe even breaking out and becoming a decent hit.
I don't know. Is he Obi-Wan though? Because he does have powers in this movie. So
Ooh.
I don't know. I don't know if Disney's doing a little cross-pollinating, if you know what I mean. I I'm interested. I was thinking about this today. Like, is this going to be another Blade Runner 2049, or is it going to be another Terminator Dark Fate? Because while Stephen King is incredibly relevant right now, it's the sequel to a movie that came out what 30 plus years ago.
But they're not entirely banking on the nostalgia. They don't. I mean, they're saying that it is, but they're not overtly saying that it is like Terminator, like Blade Runner 2049. They're not totally banking on that concept. In fact, when you see the commercials, you wouldn't know it was. It's just it's just as far as the reviews and the articles leading up to it and the interviews that they say, yeah, this is what happened. It's based a little bit from the events of The Shining and whatnot. But when you're looking at the commercials, you would never know. You would never know it's leading it from the events of The Shining.
Okay, so if they were clear about that and it not saying, not directly tying it to The Shining in the marketing materials, I think it could do very well. I haven't seen a lot of trailers, so I don't know if like movies just aren't being marketed very well these days. But it is it's a movie that it has interested me. Just from like the posters and the things I've seen, and I've read a little bit of Doctor Sleep. Is one of those books I never got around to finishing, but I was made curious by it, and I'm sure like seeing that in movie form would be cool. It's the thing with Stephen King movies is they're usually very long, so I'm looking at this one, it's like 2.5 hours, so I'm just wondering, like, with a running time like that, and just based on the fact that it's a book that people have read, obviously, but it's not going to appeal to younger crowds, if that makes sense. Like the crowds who go to see horror movies, do they even know that it's a horror movie?
I think they know it's a horror movie if they've seen the trailers, because it does give that sense with the creepiness and the scare factor a little bit. How much, to an extent, I'm not quite sure, because even in the imagery, yeah, it does point to the same hallways as was shown in The Shining and the hotel and all that. But if you've never seen The Shining, you would not know it was relating to The Shining unless you actually go see the film. So I guess they're kind of like loosely dropping hints as far as the marketing material is, but they're not overtly saying it, which I think is a pretty good thing, because they've seen what happened with Blade Runner 2049, which didn't quite meet up to expectations financially, even though the movie was, again, so brilliant, as we always say. And then you had Terminator Dark Fate, which even if it even had okay reviews, still tanked at the box office. So I think they're not hedging their bets all in one place like those other two films did. So that could be a good sign that there will be maybe some love for this film. How much or not, I'm not quite sure. I mean, most analysts are predicting right around 20 to 25 million. So we'll have to wait and see how well it does.
Sorry, dogs are barking. Yeah, we'll wait and see. I would like to watch it. It's, again, I don't have as much time to see movies these days as I used to, but it is something that I will be placing on my list of movies to view.
Sounds good to me, my friend. And I know a lot of people out there are looking forward to a great weekend at the box office. What movie are you going to check out this weekend? We'd love to hear your thoughts. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Also as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanican Media, and Game Source on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. Well, my friend, before we head to the break and our halfway point, I want to ask you this in regards to Star Wars: The Rise of the Skywalker. This week, in speaking to Yahoo Entertainment, the brother of Carrie Fisher noted that J.J. Abrams' original intent, while the late Carrie Fisher was still alive, was to have her be the actual Last Jedi. So I want to hear your thoughts on what's going on. If that would have been the scenario that played itself out, but unfortunately, due to her untimely death, it could not play out that way. So I want to hear your thoughts if Carrie Fisher had it all played out like it should have been the Last Jedi.
Hold on one second. Okay, yes, I think that that would have been cool to see. I know they are. It feels like they were building up towards that in the Last Jedi with Carrie Fisher floating out in space. Right? They said you're just getting a glimpse of her force power right there. I feel like they were going to build more on that, though. To what extent, I don't know. You know, obviously with Luke dying, there wasn't a lot of training that could have happened, but I feel like there was an arc that was forming there, and I don't think they got to fully realize what that arc was or where it was going.
All right, say again, my friend. I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's all good, man. What was my thought? I think that there was the development of a story arc that they were leading into with Leia and the Force, but I don't think that it got to be fully realized after her death. So I know they're using scenes, unused scenes from her to kind of finish out her arc, but I feel like there's someplace more that they wanted to go with that we will never get to see.
I agree with you on that. I definitely agree with you wholeheartedly on that. I think there was a certain area that they wanted to go ahead and travel into that would round out the trilogy or this trilogy and even the whole 9-story arc probably very well. I think J.J. Abrams had that in mind. So, be that as it may, it left her untimely death. Her untimely death left Lucasfilm, J.J. Abrams, and the whole Star Wars universe a little bit up in the question, up in the air, up in space, so to speak, at this point. But they were. It looks. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that they will go ahead and find a good alternative. I mean, they must have a good alternative coming up because the movie must have a good alternative because they are, well, at least in their own minds, anyways, because they are coming out with the film here on December 20th. So I ask you, do you think, or do you have faith, or do you have hope, using the pun right there from Star Wars, do you have hope that they will find the magic and find the force to bring out a ending that could be as well or almost as good as what could have been planned out with Carrie Fisher had she still been alive?
It's a good question. I look at it this way, like, so I am reading with my 8th grade class of Princess of Mars, and in that I see a lot of things that influence certain scenes from Return of the Jedi. But this Star Wars is not really drawing. I noticed about this trilogy, they're not really drawing on any influences. They're kind of making it up as they go. And for The Force Awakens, it was really good. But with this, with this last movie, and back to your question about Princess Leia, like there's not a lot of. They're trying to do her a service by ending her arc in a respectful way, but the movie as a whole, it doesn't really seem like it's got a lot of things to draw on except for old Star Wars mythology. Back when Star Wars was new, it had all these different things to draw inspiration from, but this new one seems to be kind of drifting a little bit. So my hope would be that both the ending of this Star Wars film as well as Carrie Fisher's ending in the franchise is wrapped up in a way that is memorable and fans will walk out of the movie theaters. I mean, maybe you won't recapture the magic of Return of the Jedi, but still like feeling good about what they spent the last, 7 or 8 years watching.
I hope so, my friend. I hope it will be worthwhile. I've already got my tickets for it. I know you're very interested in checking out checking out Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker when it hits theaters the weekend of December the 20th. I do want to say, if everybody out there, give it a chance. I know The Last Jedi left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. I know the death of Carrie Fisher has hit hard with a lot of people out there, including us here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. I know reading the interview that took place this week with Carrie Fisher's brother, it was nice to see that they did have great plans to have her as a central focus as the Last Jedi in the Star Wars series for this nine story arc. It would have been an awesome way to finish and complete this whole story Star Wars mission. But at this point in time, we're going to go ahead with Plan B, and hopefully with J.J. Abrams behind the director's chair, it could be a good enough Plan B to make everybody happy. And hopefully it will continue to provide more good feelings after what's taken place over the past few years that have been up and down in concerning the Star Wars universe. So I'm hopeful for a good ending that will satisfy the majority. It's not going to satisfy everybody because, as we've seen with The Last Jedi, there are a lot of people out there ready to go ahead and spout off on the Star Wars universe. But I'm hopeful that there will be a good ending to the Star Wars saga, and that the Skywalker saga will get the justification it deserves. What are your thoughts out there on Star Wars: Rise of the Skywalker when it concerns Princess Leia? Were you disappointed when you read the comments by her brother that she was going to be earmarked for being the Last Jedi? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, coming up next is our good friend Jessica Boggs from the TVRatingsGuide.com and Jessica's show. She's going to be coming up right after the break with her November TV update. And we're going to go ahead and project out right now a possible winner in the broadcast ratings. And there could be a new number one in the battle between NBC, ABC, CBS, and Fox. All that and more coming up right after the break. This is the PCC Multiverse. And we're back to close out the show. This is PCC Multiverse. If you need a listing where we're at, because we're being played all around the world, 7 days a week on radio stations worldwide, you can see our listing today at Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook, where you'll also see a listing of many of our over 30 different podcast options as well. And of course, I host two other shows, the Lakers Fast Break podcast and also Inside Sports Fantasy Football. So if you want your latest NBA news or insight into helping out your fantasy football team in the drive in its playoff, as the playoff push becomes real for you, go ahead and check out both those shows today, Lakers Fast Break and Inside Sports Fantasy Football. They're both available on every single major podcast outlet. My friend, I know you got a lot of great things going on with Topicocalypse. I want to hear about that, but also as well, what's going on and how can people get a hold of your awesome book? Congratulations, you suck.
Topicocalypse. Yeah, you can check out our Podbean, iTunes, Apple Podcast page. We're on Spotify and Anchor.fm and a few other places. So you can check that out. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. As for the book, you can pick up a copy on BarnesandNoble.com, Amazon.com, Powell's Books, and a few other secondhand booksellers. I would appreciate it if you got a copy. Left a review on Amazon and tell your friends.
Two things before we head into our last subject, and that is, speaking of Topicocalypse, and I'm going to surprise Josh with this, but next Friday on the PCC Multiverse, I'm going to beg him to give me some unreleased footage of a Topicocalypse show that we're going to play right here on the PCC Multiverse to give you a taste of it, and also you'll be hearing it in upcoming episodes as well on the Pop Culture Cosmos channel on Podbean as well. If I'm not mistaken, right? You're dropping them every now and then on the channel. Yeah,
they'll be up there, and I'm trying to drop them as frequent as possible, but we fell behind this week, so yeah.
All right. Well, I give everybody a taste of one of those episodes coming up next week on the PCC Multiverse. And then also, we are in the midst this month of trying to gather in as many top 10 favorite movies lists. If you have them out there, if you got a top 10 movie list, like Josh and I talked about last week on this show, where we're talking about our favorite movies that we liked and enjoyed, that as part of that list. Please send in your list today at either any of our social media on Humanica Media, Game Source, Pop Culture Cosmos, popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. You can send the list there. Just please, we do need as many lists as possible so we can formulate an overall top 100, or if we get enough lists, top 200 of the best movies of all time. So we'd love to hear your thoughts, and we'd love to read your thoughts on that. Please send in your list of your top 10 favorite films in order. Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, Humanica Media, all on social media, or popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. Well, my friend, before we head on out, I wanted to tell you about a little game on the PC. And normally you are PC gamers per se, but this might change that, because this inventive thriller that's just been released is getting rave reviews, some of the best reviews of the year. And it's got also the coolest name of the year for a video game, and that's Disco Elysium. Have you had a chance to check out any footage, any type of info, or any type of reviews when it comes to Disco Elysium? Because I sure have, and I must say I am impressed.
I am looking at pictures right now. So it's a top-down game, and
it has a lot of similarities to Dungeons and Dragons per se, but it's also a psychological thriller and an investigative thriller. Not only are you researching and trying to go ahead and uncover a mystery, but you're also trying to uncover a lot of things going on in your mind as well.
Would you call it like a roguelite meets BioShock?
Maybe, kind of, because it is a kind of different city that they're traveling through, and that you go ahead and you wander through. It's about a 30 to 35 hour adventure per se.
That's a long time for an indie game.
Yeah, and it does have elements of point and click. It does have elements of RPG. It does have elements of all the things I mentioned previously as well. But the biggest thing about it is just the story itself, and the writing is so good. A lot of people are really getting sucked in by that part alone. And that to me I think is what's driving these awesome reviews and so much acclaim for what is considered a smaller independent game that I think would have just gone under the radar, would have just gone straight to the bargain bin had it not been for these outstanding reviews. And just GameSpot, IGN, you see 9.5s, 9.6, 10s that are being thrown its way. So, so the word's out right now, Disco Elysium. It's the game. If you're a PC gamer, Disco Elysium could be the game of the year as far as from that format. I'm just hoping it gets to consoles, but I may actually go ahead and break down and might buy it on PC myself.
Yeah, it's looking good. I didn't even know this was a thing. I actually want to thank you for sending this across my desk.
No problem, my friend. But yes, it is getting rave reviews. It is Disco Elysium. And if anybody out there is interested in a good or a different game that goes ahead and delves into a lot of things that maybe a lot of us gamers don't normally do, because we're all focused on the first person, the third person shooter, the first person shooter, adventure games. It must be something that's very short. Time is, our time is valuable. We get all that. But here's a little game. Here's a little game that's getting huge reviews, getting across the board. A lot of people are just absolutely loving it. So, you know what? If it's going to be one of the games of the year that a lot of these publications are out there, are saying, it gets my interest, and hopefully it gets a lot of other gamers' interest as well, because little independent games like that, when they get noticed, they need to be supported. Isn't that right?
Yeah, I mean, because we want to eventually see indie games become not AAA titles, but of the same quality as AAA titles. And it looks like we're starting to get that with this, games like Disco Elysium. So yeah, the more support we give, the more these companies are able to do. We want to see the little guys become the big guys. We want them to become the next generation of game makers.
And it's always so great to see a game that's getting publicity for its greatness, especially if it's a smaller game. because we see all these games backed, we see all these AAA games that are backed by huge promotional budgets. They're on TV as far as the commercials, huge cutscenes that are shown on television, videos, just going left and right on YouTube. They're all paying off streamers to go ahead and tout their wares and all that good stuff. We see it all the time. We hear it all the time and all that. These outlets spend countless amounts of minutes going ahead and previewing their games as opposed to maybe a Disco Elysium. But then every now and then a shining light comes along, and as far as an independent game is concerned, and that shining light for 2019 looks to be Disco Elysium. So yes, it is a PC game. So I know a lot of people are apprehensive about that, but if you're interested at all, please look into Disco Elysium, because I think you'll be glad you did. What are your thoughts out there on Disco Elysium? Have you had a chance to play it yet? Are you intrigued by it are you intrigued at all the good word and good pub that it has right now? And are you hoping it goes to console too, like we do? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, my friend, it's been a great episode. Cannot wait to talk more great stuff on Monday, including all the things going on in the streaming world, because you and I are going to have a special on the streaming outlets. We're going to share our thoughts in depth. We're going to break down as much as we can in the course of what the time we have for the Pop Culture Cosmos, because Disney Plus is on the way next week. But you also mentioned you wanted to go ahead and touch on some music as well.
Yes, metalcore band Norma Jean has a new album out, and I would like to discuss that album and why it has not made the Billboard charts this time.
Well, that we're going to talk about. And of course, like I said, the streaming wars are now going to be really underway. We've got Apple Plus, Disney Plus, Hulu, Netflix, CBS All Access. We're going to run down as many as we can, all on Monday on the Pop Culture Cosmos. Any last thoughts on the way out, my friend?
No, not right now. I mean, I'm sure I'll have some more thoughts later, but I think we're good today.
One thing you always have, my friend, is a lot of thoughts. That's for sure. So for Josh Peterson, aka the Destroyer of Cheetos, this is Gerald Glassford. This is another beautiful day in paradise right here in the PCC Multiverse. We thank you for listening. And a big thank you to Jessica Boggs from the TVRatingsGuide.com for her November TV update. And here's hoping you have yourself a great day.